collagen production. You hydroxylate proline and lysine, and that's how you form collagen. So vitamin C deficiency or scurvy is actually behind osteoporosis, which explains why those cultures that eat rich sources of vitamin C from fruits and vegetables don't seem to have anything near the problems with their bone that we do. And that is a whole nother conversation, and we'd have to talk about Linus Pauling and Sven Georgi, the Nobel Prize winner who discovered ascorbic acid, to get a full sense of the therapeutic application of vitamin C. But we have only just scratched the surface of the therapeutic efficacy of that substance. And from food is the ideal. You might only find a few milligrams perhaps in a serving of grapefruit, but that qualitative difference is what makes it so profoundly therapeutic. You can take ascorbic acid all day long and it will actually pull calcium out of your bones. That's why they invented ester C. 10% limestone, 90% ascorbic acid, so it won't, be so acidic. Naturally occurring vitamin C doesn't seem to have that property. It's actually quite alkalinizing. So we want to differentiate between food and synthetic pharmaceutical type vitamins, which are everywhere.
So how many prunes? A couple prunes?
Perhaps just a couple. That's one of the most amazing things I found was prunes are able to reverse ovarectomy-induced osteoporosis.
And how about
Complete
pomegranate?
reversal.
Those are so
Pomegranate.
expensive. Did you
Cumin.
buy the juice and did you have how much of it? Or not the juice?
It's really a matter of just incorporating it into your diet, maybe not being worried so much about exactly how much.
Have it every week?
I would say for most people, especially if they want to prevent certain types of diseases, it makes sense to use pomegranate on a daily to maybe every other day basis, because you're dealing with benefits on every single chronic disease that you think of: osteoporosis, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, every single aspect, infection. Pomegranate is one of those things that if you look at all the world religions, Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, it's all considered sacred, because of the fact that the Greek culture, it's considered to be one of those truly healing foods.
Adam and Eve, that wasn't an animal.
Was it? See, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's very cool.
And you had the dark flaxseed. I grabbed the light one. Is one better than the other?
They didn't have apples.
I think so.
In
Yeah.
Israel.
I know. Oh, that's interesting. That's a great. Okay, so I don't want to miss anything here because. Okay, someone was on Fortio, and I just wanted to cover that one real quick because what that is it's a recombinant, synthetically produced fraction of parathyroid hormone. And parathyroid hormone is actually something you don't want a lot of, because it is one of the causes of osteoporosis, what they call hyperparathyroidism, next to cortisone-induced osteoporosis. This is right up there. But for some reason, when they create this synthetically manufactured analog, there's about 30 amino acids in what is naturally 80 amino acids long. It stimulates the osteoblasts. Now, normally, it creates too high levels of calcium in the blood, and it seems to cause the bone to fall apart. But for some reason, this drug, which is associated with very significant increased levels of osteosarcoma or bone cancer, that's what the drug is associated with. For some reason, it stimulates the osteoblasts. But again, stimulating the osteoblasts is definitely not a good idea unless it's occurring naturally. We know what calcium supplements in high levels will do: will stimulate the osteoblasts, make the bone weaker. But anything that has been studied to increase the risk of bone cancer should not be used as a drug, in my opinion, and it seems like if there was a common sense out there, would also dictate that. But I'm sure those who are on it aren't being told of that risk, and it's being minimized, of course. Otherwise, the drug wouldn't have received FDA approval. One of the most amazing substances out there, and it's on the website, genistein, was compared to Avista, which is a synthetic serotonin estrogen receptor modulator, a wannabe flaxseed meal, basically, Fosamax, and estradiol. It was superior to all three of those drugs for reversing the osteoporosis induced in rats and increasing the bone strength. So that's a great thing. It really
That's
is.
on your website?
It is, yeah, and it's there for clinicians, doctors, researchers, consumers, so they can say, listen, I heard that there was a study done, and you can show them the page, you can email it to them, there's a link on every page, you can send it right to them, and they can draw their own opinion, because you can't blame them for not knowing, they just weren't trained in order to really appreciate the science that has emerged over the past 20 years, which is massive. I mean, whenever I go onto Medline and I type in things like turmeric and cancer, you get 1,000 studies that come up. It's going to take me at least another 10 years to feel that I've completed this project, but in the matter of 9 months, I've already amassed enough amazing information, which you can easily search and index now, that provides me at least an answer for almost anything out there that may afflict me. I can at least say, oh, wow, well, there's that natural alternative. So, I don't have much time here left. We have, I think, about 14 minutes, but DHA. Amazing, but fish oil is actually one of the best things you can do to promote bone strength and density, maintain appropriate density. And that's because inflammation is a big part of osteoporosis. So we didn't really talk about that. But when there's an inflammatory state in the body, little messenger molecules go out there like cytokines, and it activates osteoclastogenesis. So inflammation stimulates the bone destroying cells to get active, and they start doing their thing. So there have been studies on herbal formulas. There's one by a company called New Chapter, and this is also on Medline and on the website. They have produced something called Zyflamin, which has turmeric, ginger, green tea, holy basil, resveratrol, and a few other herbs that aren't as well known. And it actually reduces osteoclastogenesis because it's an anti-inflammatory. So generally, inflammation can be addressed through antioxidants. That's one of the beautiful things about science, is now we understand that when you have inflammation, you have an actual oxygenation or burning of a fat called arachidonic acid. That fat is way over represented in our diet. We're getting maybe, 10 to maybe 40 times more omega-6 than omega-3 fatty acids. You know, our bodies, if you look into our DNA, post-human genome project, it's pretty clear. We are extremely dependent on getting a good amount of omega-3 from our diet on a daily basis, because we can't produce it. That's why they're called essential fatty acids. If you can't produce the fat that's essential for your health, you don't get in your diet, then you're really in trouble. And so when we're eating our traditional Western grain-based diet and our reiterated grains, eating fish and poultry and meats that have been fed corn, we're getting inflammatory fats that are accumulating in our body, and they're causing an overexpression of hormones like prostaglandin E2. And that's what you find overexpressed in conditions like osteoporosis. And that's really important information for all diseases, because every disease you can think of is actually correlated with inflammation. So it's helpful to know. And so with anti-inflammatories, when you can inhibit oxygen burning arachidonic acid, you inhibit all the inflammatory byproducts. Prostaglandin E2, thromboxanes, which lead to thrombosis causing heart attack, leukotrienes, which are associated with asthma and allergy. And so that's where fish oil comes in. And we just need to increase our consumption of omega-3 fatty acid rich foods. And if that means go spend the extra $2 at Publix for your omega-3 rich eggs, do it, because you are going to see a huge difference. That's a big part of it. So, any questions then?
You have this whey protein. Is this
Yeah, I don't
the
like.
best?
I'm not a big fan of J. Rob's marketing of himself. How buff he is on the front of his product. It's probably why it's so expensive too. It's a fancy label, but it is an example of where we think let's get lots of calcium. Well, protein is probably just as important when it comes to maintaining strong bones. And again, if 30% of our bone right now is collagen, and it all starts off as collagen, that flexibility is what allows you to deal with pressure and tension and trauma. So if your bones are just really dense from being stuffed with calcium and inadequate micronutrients like zinc and boron and strontium and silica that you need for it to structure